Hello everyone, welcome to Civil Minds Academy. So we have just started with the videos of Indian polity. We are covering certain topics of Indian polity related to the current affairs section. It is going to be very fruitful for the upcoming exams, both objective and descriptive exams. If it is state civil services or it is Union Public Service Commission. We have covered the topic of President of India partially in our previous video. You can go to the link and can watch the video. Today we are going to cover the topic of Vice President of India. In the recent news, this topic has been in limelight, and today we are going to know in depth about the Vice President of India, its post and the Vice Presidential election. Feel free to be a part of Civil Minds Academy by clicking on any of the social media links or by contacting us directly on our institute's phone number. So in the recent news, we have seen two candidates who have been contesting for being the next Vice President of India, the 14th Vice President of India. Who are these dignitaries? These are Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar ji, who was the Vice Presidential candidate for NDA, and Miss Margaret Alva, who was the Vice Presidential candidate for UPA. So, who is the Vice President of India? So, Vice President of India, let's talk about this very post in details. Vice President of India, the office of President is modelled based on Britain. So, as we have already covered in our previous video about the President of India, the nature of the President of India, his post is based on Britain, and the office of Vice President is modelled based on America. So, this is something different. Point to be noted, the first point of difference between the President of India and the Vice President of India is that the presidential post is based on Queen, Britain's Queen. It is modelled based on it, and the Vice Presidential post is based on United States of America. Next comes the articles associated with the Vice President of India. So, roughly article number 63 to article number 73, they talk about the Vice President of India. So, comes the first article, article number 63, Vice President of India's post. So, article number 63 describes about the Vice Presidential post in India. Next comes article number 64. Vice President to be ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so as we know, our parliament has two houses, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and Vice President is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. What do you mean by the term ex officio? So, ex officio is technically a Latin word which means from the office. That means Vice President of India never takes the oath as the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, rather by default, being the Vice President of India, being in the office of the Vice President, he automatically becomes the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, no separate oath has been taken by the Vice President of India to be the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. Next comes article number 65. To act as President if President is not present. So, as you might be knowing, in the Constitution, Vice President of India comes in the second order of preference. In the first order of preference, President of India has been mentioned. So, in case if the President of India is not present, Vice President of India acts as the President of India, and so he will be called as the acting President. The next article is article number 66, election of the Vice President of India. We will be dealing with the election of Vice President of India, gradually comparing the election of the President of India in detail in the upcoming slide. Article number 67, it talks about the term of office. How long will a Vice President hold his office? It is 5 years. So, the term of office of Vice President is 5 years. Next article is article number 68, which talks about the duration What is this exactly? So let's get into details. An election to fill the vacancy caused by the expiration of the term of office of the outgoing vice president is required to be completed before the expiration of the term. What does this mean in short? In short, it means that there will never be a condition when the post of the vice president will be vacant. For example, in the recent time, Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, he is about to resign from his post from 10th of August. So elections were held before it, so that the next upcoming vice president holds the office before the expiration of the term of office of the outgoing vice president. I hope I am clear. So in short, the office of vice president will never be vacant. Next is article number 69, oath. Article number 69 talks about the oath taken by Vice President of India. So who administers the oath taken by Vice President of India? The answer is President of India. So the oath of Vice President of India is administered by the President of India. Next article, article number 70, discharge of President's functions in other contingencies. So what does this word contingencies mean? Contingencies mean akasmic in Hindi. In urgent conditions, in emergency, during emergency, whenever the conditions arise that President of India is not present, at that particular time, Vice President of India will be working as the President of India, and the term used would be acting President. So Vice President of India would be called as the acting President of the India. At that time, he will be facilitated with the salary and allowances equivalent to the President of India. And at that very time, he will not be working as the chairperson of Rajya Sabha. So now let's start with some general informations related to the Vice President of India. So who takes care of conducting the Vice Presidential election? The answer is Election Commission of India. Just like the election of the President of India, the election of Vice President of India is also conducted by the Election Commission of India. The next very important point is the qualifications of Vice President. So what all qualifications a person must hold on to be the Vice President of India? The first one is he should be a citizen of India. We have already studied in the presidential topic, in the presidential post topic in our previous video. Even to be a President of India, the person has to be a citizen of India. Just like that, Vice President also have to be the citizen of India. The next point is he should be eligible to become a member of Rajya Sabha. So the vice presidential person, the vice presidential candidate should be eligible to become a member of Rajya Sabha. Here comes the point of difference. For being or for contesting for the presidential post, the person has to be eligible to be a member of Lok Sabha. But for being a Vice President of India, the person has to be eligible for the Rajya Sabha's member, for being the Rajya Sabha's member. Next is point number C, no office of profit. What is office of profit? We have already dealt in detail what is office of profit in our previous video. You can just click on the link given in the description below and you can revisit and get cleared it out. So the person should not hold any office of profit for contesting a vice presidential election and for being the Vice President of India. The next is other conditions specified by Parliament. So there are various acts which are passed by the Parliament of India, like People's Presentation Act. All these acts specify certain code and conducts for being a member of Parliament. So other conditions specified by Parliament refers to those acts and their specific code of conducts. One point has to be noted that you will not see any people's participation, direct general public's participation in the election of Vice President of India. Even here we can see a mention of he has to be a member of Rajya Sabha. He has to be eligible to be a member of Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha is not in the picture. So the next point is, what is the method of election of Vice President? The election method is proportional representation system by means of single transferable voting system is the voting pattern for the office of Vice President. So the same method which we have already studied in the presidential election, the proportional representation system by means of single transferable vote is the method used for choosing or for electing our Vice President. Who will participate? Who all will participate in the Vice Presidential election? So here comes the difference. If you compare it with the presidential election, here comes the difference. Please take care of it. All the member of parliaments of parliament. So all the members of parliament, okay, if it is Lok Sabha, if it is Rajya Sabha, if the members are elected members or if the members are nominated members. In the presidential election, we have already studied that only the elected members participated in the presidential elections, and even state legislative assembly members, all the MLAs of various states and Delhi and Puducherry UTs also participated in the presidential election. But this is not in the case of vice presidential election. In the vice presidential election, all the member of parliaments of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, irrespective of how they have really acquired the seat, if they are nominated members or if they are elected members, all of them participate in the vice presidential election, and there is no involvement of the state MLAs or MLAs of UTs like Puducherry and Delhi in vice presidential election. So this is yet another major point of difference. So let's revise once more. Who all will participate? All the members of parliament, both elected members and nominated members. So both elected as well as nominated members, both of them will participate in the vice presidential election. Since all the electors are members of both the houses of parliament, the value of the vote of each member of parliament would be same. Okay, so all the electors who are participating in the vice presidential election are MPs. So what will be the vote value of each MP in vice presidential election? 1. Okay. So this is yet another point. The next very important point, to skim out non-serious candidates of vice presidential election, the provision comes in. For the office of vice president, the candidate should be supported by 20 proposers and 20 seconders. So what are these proposers and 20 seconders? These proposers and these seconders are the electors, the members of the electoral college of the vice presidential election. So 20 people will propose the name of the vice presidential candidate they want to be chosen as the next vice president, and they will be supported by another 20 electors of the same electoral college for choosing that vice presidential candidate. The next point is dispute on the elections regarding Vice President of India. So in case if any confusing condition arises or any dispute arises during the election of the Vice President of India, so who will take care of it? Who will have the final call? The answer is Supreme Court of India. All petitions related to Vice Presidential elections dispute shall be filed only in Supreme Court of India. Okay, so only the Supreme Court of India will have the final call. NDA candidate Jagdeep Dhankar ji, he has won the election of the Vice President of India, and he has won by 528 votes. He has defeated Miss Margaret Alva, who secured a total number of votes of around 182. So he is going to be the next Vice President, the 14th Vice President of our nation India. So, do you know something about Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar ji, who is going to be our 14th Vice President? So, let's get to know about him. Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar ji, who is going to be the 14th Vice President of India, secured 528 votes out of 725 votes. Okay, and he defeated Miss Margaret Alva, who was the representative of the UPA. She secured around 182 votes. 15 votes casted were considered invalid. Vice President has no power to give his vote during general proceedings of Rajya Sabha. So, as we have already studied that Vice President of India is the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. But one thing has to be kept in mind, that Vice President of India is though the ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha, still he is not a member of Rajya Sabha. He is neither a member of Lok Sabha nor a member of Rajya Sabha. Okay, he is just the Vice President of India and an ex officio chairperson of Rajya Sabha. So that's why Vice President has no power to give his vote during general proceedings of Rajya Sabha. But according to Article 100, the Vice President can give the vote as per the casting vote. It will be used only when there is a tie. So in case during Rajya Sabha proceedings there is a tie amongst the votes which are given in favor or in against on a certain bill, and no clear majority is observed, at that very condition, based on Article 100, Vice President of India will cast a casting vote which will be decisive, okay, and the bill will be passed and it will become an ultimately act when signed by the President of India. So which articles tells about this casting vote? Article 100. So how to remember this? There is a short trick. You can split 100 into 50 plus 50. 50 plus 50. Okay, so when there is 50-50 condition, no absolute clarity at that particular time, Rajya Sabha ex officio chairperson, our Vice President, will cast a casting vote. I hope I am clear. So the next important point about the Vice President of India. Vice President is always representative of Rajya Sabha and nowhere related to public affairs. Okay, so Vice President of India is nowhere related to the Lok Sabha. He is nowhere related to the public affairs. There is no people's participation in vice presidential election. So we have already got to know about this very point. The next is the office of Vice President does not have any mention in the Constitution. Okay, the Vice President receives the salary in the capacity of chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay, so the Vice President of India, he receives the salary in the capacity of being the chairperson of Rajya Sabha, not being the Vice President of India. So that's why this very point comes in. The office of Vice President does not have any mention in the Constitution. It doesn't specify about the office of the Vice President, though it tells us about the post of the Vice President. Next is Vice President shall act as President when there is a sudden death, resignation, removal of the President of India. So in these conditions, whenever our President of India is not present, so what are all these conditions? Sudden death, sudden demise of the President, or resignation given by the President, or removal of the President of India by a process called as impeachment. So in any of these conditions, if the post of the President of India gets vacant, Vice President of India acts as the President of India for a brief period of time and is called as the acting President. Okay? When Vice President is acting as President, so point to be noted, when the Vice President of India would be working as the acting President, he is discharged from the office of Chairman. At that point of time, he will not chair the proceedings of Rajya Sabha. He will be discharged as the chairman of Rajya Sabha. Vice President can contest for any number of times and there is no restriction mentioned in the constitution. So a person who has already been the Vice President of India can recontest the election for being the Vice President of India again. Okay. So there is no capping on this election thing. It is similar to the President of India. We have already dealt with this point in our previous video. Vice President is ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha and there is no separate election of chairman. We have already studied this topic, right? When Vice President acts as President, he is entitled to all the benefits which are given to President of India. So if it is salaries, emoluments or anything else. So whenever Vice President of India acts as the President of India, at that particular time, he has the exact same share of powers and salary emoluments similar to that of President of India. In US, now we are talking about USA. Why? Because the vice presidential post has been modeled on USA. So that's why we are talking about the USA thing. So in USA, upon the removal of president, the vice president is automatically elevated to the post of president. So this is a specific condition of United States of America. This condition doesn't hold good in the country of India, in our country. Okay. So the vice president in US is automatically elevated to the President of India if he has been acting as the President of India. Okay. But in India, it's not an automatic provision. Upon the death of president, they can choose a new candidate. Okay. So a new candidate can be chosen for being the next President of India in case the President of India has a sudden demise, rather than declaring the Vice President as President. Okay. So this is a point of difference from USA. The next point is Vice President eligible for 50% of salary as pension post retirement and he is in the second order of the table of precedence. So we have already discussed this very point. So these are our Vice Presidents of India, our ex-Vice Presidents and our soon to be Vice President, the 14th Vice President. So you can really go through this slide in detail, who mentions about Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji and his tenure, and gradually you can take a screenshot. You should learn these factual points. You should be aware of this basic GK. So lastly, few points to be noted in general about the Vice President of India. The post of Vice President of India is taken from the US's constitution. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was the first Vice President of India and the current salary of the Vice President of India is rupees 4 lakhs rupees. Okay. So his current salary is rupees 4 lakhs exclusive of allowances. So thank you so much everyone. I hope we dealt with this topic of Vice President in details. In case you have any doubts or if in case you want to be an esteemed part of the Civil Minds Academy, feel free to join us by contacting us on our institute's phone number, or else you can also join us or connect us via our social media sites. Thank you so much. We will be coming with further more interesting topics of the Indian polity in the upcoming classes. Please feel free if you want to give in suggestions or want a specific topic to be dealt with. We are also coming up with the exclusive batches for CGPSC English medium students in Raipur city at our esteemed institution Civil Minds Academy. We are also relaunching and restarting a new batch of UPSC. We already have UPSC batches, separate dedicated UPSC batches in our institute. So please feel free to join our esteemed institution. Thank you so much.